Hola, y'all. Okay. All right. So tonight we're just gonna have fun tonight. Wine and Witchery episode 2, and we're just gonna have fun. We're gonna discuss quite a few things that are current events in the witchy community. If you have anything, honestly, anything you'd like to discuss, anything that's been, like a trend or anything that's going on right now in the community, or anything, any blog posts, anything like that, you want to discuss, please share. And we will do our best to respond and to communicate and discuss that. We do have some things that we are going to talk about tonight, of course. And the first thing that when Melissa, she posted on her page, The Dreadful Mystic, for people to respond and see what they want us to talk about. And of course, the big response is they want us to talk about Raymond Buckland and the whole the cursing, the hexing of the rapist, and not just the rapist. It was many people involved, so that has to be stressed. It wasn't just one person. It was the hexing and the cursing of more than one person. So we'll be talking about that just because that is a trend and that is something that is important to a lot of people. I will say on Friday, I always want to say the Secret Circle. The Sacred Circle, they did a show, which is very interesting, and they did talk on this subject, and there's quite a few interesting points that they made, Cricket Song and Lippy Witch, and as I was watching, I was getting information, and I was, I'm like, okay, this is something that we should also talk on. So my response really is going to be about, during what they expressed on that show, and I would definitely say check it out. It was a Friday show on Lunar Wisdom, the Sacred Circle. We'll post the link to the video in our description when it goes up. But before we do that as well, also, I'll try and share it on the Deviant Witchery page. Layloken, hopefully I said it right again. If not, whatever. He created this, and it's in YouTube Pagans as well, but he created this funny video that I think everyone should check out. It was funny, it made me laugh, and it's horrible. I'm trying to look at what it was. I forget what it was called, but I don't know if y'all saw it. It was funny.
Well, I don't know. Was it a recent one?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can't find it now. Shit, y'all post so much in this damn group. Can't find shit. Oh, public service announcement, how to be Wicca compliant. And it was fucking funny. So y'all have to, if you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. It made me laugh. And
I think he's done one. If it's the one that I've watched, if there's only one that he's done, I've watched it. But if he's done several, I watched the one that was a few weeks back.
This was done on the 16th.
Of June?
This year, of June.
Of June, okay. So, yeah, he's done one that I thought was interesting. I mean, there was some things that he said that I disagree with, but that he's funny, and it's good, and it's, it's
right. And I'll put the link to that video as well in our description, just because you just have to watch it. You just have to watch it. You really do. Just have to watch it. But yes, anyways, enough of my rambling. Y'all, let's talk about this experience.
Stanford Rapist. So you want to start out with Stanford Rapist, hexing?
Yeah, that's kind of that was the base of the next. So let's just go ahead, and if you want to just express that, and we'll talk about that.
Well, The Wild Hunt wrote an article about it, and for those of you that don't know, because I have watched a few witchy groups talk about it, and they weren't really that aware of all the details. So I'll just sum up really, really quick. Brock Turner was caught by two Swedish exchange students raping an unconscious girl behind a dumpster. One of them, as soon as they were yelling at him, stop, what are you doing? He started to run. One of them tackled him and kept him there until the police got there. and he was charged with 3 felony accounts of sexual assault. One included a sexual assault with a foreign object. So, and anyway, the way it went down was basically the judge said, well, you know, I feel like he's too weak for state prison, so he's serving a 6-month sentence with the option to get out in 3 months in a city jail instead of state penitentiary, which is where he should be. And then his dad later on wrote a letter talking about how his son was being punished for 20 minutes of action. So, you know, take of that what you will. But he was found guilty of all 3 accounts. So I know a lot of people say, well, we don't really know the situation. He was proven guilty in a court of law. It's just that he wasn't given a sentence that justified the crime. So a group, Melanie Hexing is the name of the lady who started this. I have to look it up because I wasn't quite sure. But anyway, basically she invited others to join her on June 7th to place a hex on Brock Turner, Dan Turner, which is his dad, and Judge Persky, who is the judge that gave the sentence, while sending love and support to the victim of the attack. So it wasn't just a hex. Oh, we lost Hunter. It wasn't just a hex. It was also a sending love to the victim while hexing her attacker. So, and the judge for getting such a crappy reduced sentence. And personally, I don't see any problem with it. That's my personal feelings on it. I don't know if I would necessarily have joined in on the hex. I mean, I didn't find out about it till afterwards anyway. But I understand why they did what they did. You know, their whole point was they're tired of the rape culture that we live in the United States specifically, and how all these rapists get off with little to no punishment. So I understand I understand the actions behind their hexing, and like I said, to me, I don't see a problem with it. That's just me.
I think that, first of all, I obviously don't have a problem with this. I think it was genius. Did you read a little bit of the hex specifically for Brock Turner?
I didn't read anything in the hex. I know you said you had some notes on it. I didn't see that. So.
A few notes on it. The actual little, like, it was in USA Today. This is the tidbit from that article. It's the tidbit of the hex, the spoken word part of it, just specifically for Brock Turner, was, Brock Turner, we hex you. You will be impotent. You will know constant pain of pine needles in your guts. Food will bring you no sustenance. In water, your lungs will fail you. Sleep will only bring your nightmares. Shame will be your mantle. You will meet your justice.
Well, you know why they added the pine needles in? Because apparently when she was rushed to the hospital, they literally found pine needles and debris inside of her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the thing that, just speaking on, just to, first of all, I love the hex. I love the words. I think it was very well. I mean, I'd have probably gotten worse with it, to be honest with you, so I can't say anything. I think it was lightly placed, even though I think the power is there. I guess my main issue with it, on just a purely political standpoint, is that we have men. Not that any of it makes it better. Don't get me wrong. Rape is rape, and honestly, if you take advantage of anyone, be you man, be you woman, be you whatever, if you take advantage of someone in that state, or even if they're sober and they're not unconscious, you deserve far worse than any sentence can give you in jail. However, it pisses me off that there are men that are serving, 15 to 20 years for rape, and this kid got off, and that makes me mad. I will say that as far as the hexing of the entire party, the only one that I did not agree with, and this is probably very controversial, but this is how I feel, and I'll explain myself. Hexing his lawyer, he was doing a job. No matter what, that's his job. His job is to get his client the best judgment, if not completely clean. That's his job. That's the exact same as if granted we don't get paid that much, but it's exactly if someone comes to us and say, okay, I need you to protect a client. I need you, I need you to protect me, or I need you to hex on my behalf. I need, it's hard to place judgment on him.
I think it was more his actions in the courtroom. Granted, like you said, he was doing a job. But it's like, she had gone to the party with her sister. And basically, he was like, well, when her sister was on the stand, he was basically like, well, did you think that she was, capable enough to leave the party? She's like, well, the last time I saw her, yes, she was. And he just twisted things around really badly. And it was the whole blame the victim kind of thing. But like you said, I mean, it is his job.
Right.
But sometimes I feel like their jobs can be done a lot. The whole making the victim relive all that and blaming the victim really, to me, it just adds to the rape culture of our society.
I agree, and it's the same way with...
But I understand what you're saying, I agree with you.
Same way with, murder. Same way with homicides. Anytime you want to place such a blame, and we've all been probably in a courtroom setting before where something happened and something was said, and you just detested everything that was coming out of that lawyer's mouth, but... Again, he's doing a job that is what he is hired for. He is, he can't place bias there. As shitty as that sounds, it's true, because there has been worse cases than this that a lawyer has been, had to defend such a shitty person. I mean, there are mass murderers. There are, serial killers who have lawyers, and as god awful as all of these things are, especially in a case where there was rape then murder in that sequence from these serial killers, which happens so often. There's that person, and he is doing a job, and you can't really place blame on someone for doing their job, and that's the only in the entire thing with this group of, and I think they kept calling them women, but I imagine there were men that hexed as well. I don't know, but in the articles they referred to the women, over 1,000 women that were in this group that hexed simultaneously. So obviously it touches, I think, women's heartstrings a little bit more, and maybe that's why that was the response from the female witches. But yeah, so that's the only thing that I had an issue with. But everything else, yeah, go for it. Why not? He deserves every one bit of it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And people have issues. Like Melissa, I don't think I would have participated in the group experience. If I felt called to, if I knew about it, I may have done my own thing. And if I was going to raise awareness and do something, I would have I may have posted it in our personal group in Deviant Witchery, or just with us, and we would handle something. It's just not the way I would do it, but I understand and respect the way that it was done, because at the same time, and it's hard because, and again, like on what was it, the Sacred Circle, and what they were saying, they were talking about activism, like witches, should we be activists? Do we have to be? And I have like very small notes. And how people, and I was a participant in this conversation too, how, some people express that because we are witches, we are responsible, we have a social responsibility for what's going on within our society. I don't agree with that per se, because, we've talked about that, and a lot of witches, a lot of magical practitioners, they feel because of the power, the skill set that we have, that we owe society something. I don't think that's true. But in cases like this, it's personal. It's a personal choice. And when you are a person of power, when you have influence, it doesn't matter whether it's magical or mundane. When you're a person of power and you have influence, and you see something going on that is not okay, that's when it's up to you to speak up. That's when it's up to you to stand up and to handle things and to take care of it in the way you can. You can't just keep looking at something when you witness it and when you're around it and when you feel called to act. You can't just turn your head. There's a point where, and this is personal. This is a personal decision, a personal choice. There's the more that we neglect who we are, and the more that we neglect taking care of other people, the more we neglect our hearts and sharing and caring, the more we create a problem. And then and Melissa and I kind of talked about that on our last show on Wednesday, I believe, the tarot show. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
We had a lot to say about this, about the core issue of things that happen, and that really it starts with us and how we teach hate. And so I'm rambling, but the point is like, because of that, and because we keep turning away when shit like this happens, or because we keep saying, well, what really happened, or this person wasn't actually hurt, or because they did this, I don't believe them. There's so many things that go on, and we're just making excuses. So there are times where we have to take action, and whether you believe that he did it or he didn't do it doesn't matter. People do.
To me, I don't see how anyone can believe he didn't. He was caught in the act by two people. Like, if you were in Texas and you killed someone and you were caught by one more person, you would immediately get the death sentence.
Right. People are like, well, and this is no disrespect to anyone who's I understand the perception, but
right.
when you say, well, I don't really, no one will ever know what fully developed, but two people, really, the person who did it and the person who was victim. And yes, people can come by and see, but there's evidence and there's proof, and at the same time, we have the power to change things. And if someone feels called to do so, then more power to them, because it's necessary.
And as far as like there being proof of opinion, I mean, there was admitted. It's not like there was admitted. I mean, he knows, his father knows, his father made a public statement. It was the shittiest fucking public statement that probably has ever been released. It was released. This is not something that was kept under wraps and like, oh no, my son didn't do that. This is not like, secret.
Right. And Wiccan Fury said her letter that she read in court to the guy was very powerful. It's been published around. So true, and I might have a link somewhere. I'll see if I can't get it to Michael whenever he puts everything up and put it in the description. But you have to be kind of a cold, heartless person to not cry after reading. It's a very long letter, but by the end of it, I was in tears because she didn't even realize what had happened. They didn't tell her at the hospital. The first time she even realized that she had actually been raped was when she heard about it on the news. I mean, because she was in such a state of shock, and she remembered nothing. So, like I said, even in the hospital, obviously they did a rape kit and everything. She knew she was being checked out in areas where, just an accident you wouldn't be checked out in. I just don't think it registered in her mind because she was in such a state of shock over what happened. So, yeah, the letter is it's a very, very powerful letter.
Unless you've been in that situation, you have no idea what someone goes through, what the not just physical damage, but the psychological damage that happens to someone in that situation. And again, it's a cultural thing. We live in a rape culture. It happens. It happens on every fucking college campus there is. This is a culture where, you know, I hate to say this, but, you know, and it's not alcohol. It's your choices when alcohol's involved, and for that matter, any other drug. Because again, anything that incapacitates you, you know, it doesn't make it okay to take advantage of someone in any way whatsoever. And I was when I was in college, this was like forced upon you. It is a culture that they are trying to break so heavily. It's not even. It happens every day on every college campus. This is every day. This is not something that just happens once in a while. It was just a mistake. You know, who knows how many times he had done it prior and just didn't get caught, or the girl didn't speak up, because honest to God, a lot of that is the problem. It's like once you are a victim, especially in rape situations, you don't tell anybody. You're ashamed. You don't know exactly what happened in a lot of cases because you probably were incapacitated. You know, roofies are still used every day. Like, this is not. This is not. This is a small issue in a larger ocean of 1,000 other cases that has happened. And the sick thing about it is he just got a slap on the wrist, and that is what I take. That's what I have problems with. And
Right.
as far as what you were saying, Michael, as far as like a witch's duty or whatever, a witch only owes one debt, and that is the debt of their own conscience. And
Right.
that is what you have to live by. Every witch, no matter what it is, no matter what your belief is, if you believe that this is something you should have been involved in, or it still is something you need to be involved in, by God, do it. Like, don't, you know, whatever. Did I personally hex him? No, I didn't. Honest to God, the sad thing about it is I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it. The whole thing, I didn't think about it. So I commend a woman for getting these, you know, these witches together and doing something. If that, again, but this wasn't a call to all witches. This was open to whoever wanted to partake. This is not saying that all witches should have done this. This was one witch getting her conscience together enough to want to do something, and that's great for her.
And, you know, I think she even said in her invite, I think it was like a Facebook invite, I'm not really sure, but I think she even said, you know, only join if this is something you want to do. She wasn't like, say, oh, everyone should join, it is your duty. It wasn't anything like that. You know,
Right.
so the fact that people got so up in arms about it, that kind of irritated me, because she didn't say you had to do it.
I will. I'm probably gonna. I've said this before, and I'm probably gonna I'm gonna offend. I'm definitely gonna offend. But when this was happening, we will get to Raymond Bucklands' response, you know, soon. But this kind of leads into that. But when this was happening, there was a lot of interesting conversation going on in groups. And a lot of the queer groups that I'm a part of, like gay pagan people, you know, LGBT, like pagans, witches, there were so many who were like disgusted about witches coming together to hex. Like they were so quick to say that it was wrong, that we don't do that it was so disrespectful to the craft, that it's an embarrassment, these aren't real witches. The majority other groups, that was not the case. There was a few people who expressed their concern and they don't like it, but there were other people who also expressed that they understood. But in the majority of the, you know, LGBT groups that I am a part of, the common thing was to not do anything and to condemn people who were. But and it's not funny, I shouldn't say that. The very interesting thing is, it makes me mad, when fuck, I can't even talk about it. Orlando, when the shooting and the mass murder, when that happened, oh, who was the first person to express like we need to do something, we need to take care of it, we gotta. It's not enough to just send good vibes. We have to hex, we have to curse. I'm like, okay, I understand that now. You're personally connected. You feel connected to that because this is your community. But you can't express that and say that about one thing and then go and say that this person over here who was hurt and who experienced that, like, that somehow their experience was like not valid, and that deems them unworthy of you speaking up and out. And it's not okay. It's just not okay that people do that, and you will condemn people and say they're not actual practitioners and they're not actual people of power and they're not witches when they will step up and speak out and utilize their influence and their power for a rape victim. But when you're personally influenced, now you change your mind. That's not okay. I will say that I am personally very, very, very blessed to all my friends that I have on my Facebook. Each and every one of them, I respect their opinion, I respect their perception, and they were not part of the conversation and the type of stupidity that went on.
Rather, I guess two-faced is the wrong thing to say, but
hypocritical.
Yeah, hypocritical. There you go. That's the word. And not to say that I would disagree with someone getting a group together to hex whoever. I'm not sure who they would hex with the Orlando shooting because he's no longer living. Maybe his wife, excuse me, appears that she is involved or whatever. But still, I would be just as supportive of that as I am of this woman who got this group together to perform this hex. And I mean, they also performed a blessing for this young lady, which to me is the perfect balance for the two. Not saying there has to be balance, but I felt like the blessing almost enhanced the curse. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and at the same time, when this situation involves like two distinct energies.
Right.
When you're taking care of this energy, you have to take care of this energy because this energy still needs something. It still needs that covering, So it's very smart and wise to handle it in that way.
I thought so as well.
These are both very delicate subjects. So I don't want to say something that is going to offend anybody because that's not my intention. Sometimes it is, and I'll be the first to own up to that this is not. What happened in Orlando was a tragic, god-awful thing. It was most definitely a hate crime, but you're talking someone who is fucking mentally unstable. This person needed help long before he got his hands on a gun and decided to blow up. I mean, there have been reports now saying that he was very self-hating, self-conflicted, because what he was apparently affiliated with a religion, a radical part of a religion that was and still is and very openly anti-gay. So his psyche being self-conflicted about his own sexual orientation is very interesting to me because this is not only a self-conflicting psychotic person that has chosen to destroy the lives of not just the victims but the families and the people and the friends and everything, and that was awful. I don't mean to discount that in any way by what I'm saying, but Brock Turner was not mentally unstable. I mean, somebody can argue that because someone who chooses to rape obviously has a fucking problem, but he made a conscious decision. I'm not saying that the shootings in Orlando were not a conscious decision, but at the same time, this fucking person had been fucked a long fucking time. So, and again, that is not to discount anything. That is not to put...
Well, it all boils down to programming.
It does. It does.
That's just the thing. It all boils down to programming. You're taught, we teach, we accept, and we look away, and we make sure to instill hate and that and disrespect. And so it boils down to that. And
it's
so
you can argue that his dad programmed him to be the way he was, because obviously his dad thought it was stupid that his son was being put in jail with this whole, he's being punished for 20 minutes of action. You know, so obviously there were some issues there too.
Clearly this is a culture where it's okay to demean women and just call rape action. That was amazing to me. And also, there's in political science you'll hear NIMBY, the abbreviation of NIMBY. It's not in my backyard. For the specific like LGBT pagans, it was like before this was a straight man taking advantage of a straight woman, so they couldn't find very much, common anything with that.
That's ignorant.
And then not in my backyard, so it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, I agree, whatever, but it doesn't affect me. So then it affects, it's symbolic of the entire LGBT community that gays and lesbians were shot up at a fucking club. So now it's important, and it's very hypocritical, and it is very rude. And it's bad. But don't take a stance on one thing and not take a stance on another. Like, stay true again to yourself. Like, if this is truly what you believe it all around.
Right. And let's talk. Well, in a second, we'll talk about Ray Buckland's lovely response. But I do want to say, and again, this is we're witches, and it was amazing. It's great to see that when we, people of power, again, when they take action, there was a group who decided to take justice and enact it and do malediction, and that's fucking awesome. There were also other people that were doing cleansings, and they were being there for their community. They were posting, they were saying, if you need to talk, if you need help, reach out, I'll be there for you, I'll listen. If you need a cleansing, if you need a healing work, if you need something done, let's take care of this, let's heal together as a community, let's be there for one another. And that's kind of like what we need I feel that's important, especially during such things and such times, that we need to do. Not necessarily you have to speak up and speak out and be very vocal, but it is very necessary for.
Oh, he froze.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh no. Maybe he'll come back. Oh, he's trying to come back.
He's trying really hard.
He is.
We're gonna go.
Oh no. Well, shoot. Okay, I guess, do you want to just go ahead and move on to the Raymond Buckland statement?
Yes, and before we...
I have it, if for those of you who haven't read it, and just so you know, if you want to look at it and look at the comments and things going on there, it's his Facebook page is public, so anyone can read it. Oh wait, there's Michael. Okay, so we'll wait. Did you want to finish that, dear, before we moved on to Raymond?
Where did I leave off? Because I was like on one. I was like going, and then I'm like, fuck, I froze.
You almost didn't even get out one word before it kind of...
Yeah, you talked about the fact about the cleansing, and that was important part of our community to heal, and then it dropped out.
What I was just trying to express was exactly that. Is like, it's important for us to enact and take care of one another and be supportive in our own ways and however we decide to do it. And we must do it where our magic is intertwined, because again, we're magical people, and so we have to support. And that's like, and I will say we have to, because the more that I contemplate this and the more that I see the fucking bullshit that goes on, the more I understand that it's all about separation. And there's a lot of hate and separation, and that is what separation. That's what divides. It's what takes people away from each other. And the more that we decide to heal our own community and be there and be of service, and again, that's what a witch does. We are of service. The more we do that in our own way, however we're called to do it, besides looking out for ourselves, the more we will spread that energy, and the more that we will bring healing. And people will know if something happens, there's always going to be a witch there in one way or another to have their back, whether it means to heal, to curse, to protect. It's what we do.
Right. I agree. So I was going to read Raymond Buckland's statement, and y'all, like I said earlier, Raymond Buckland's Facebook page is completely public. You can just go and look at it if you want to read it. You can comment on it if you feel the need. There's already 713 comments on there. So anyway, he says, so very sorry to see so many people who call themselves witches talking about hexing people, just undoing all the work that we pioneers work so hard to do. Witches do not hex people, do not do a negative magic, period. Send out love. Find a positive way to change someone if you really feel that's necessary. I wouldn't mind betting that these people haven't gotten the power to hex the skin off a rice pudding anyway. In love and light, Ray Buckland.
Okay. So I have. He also released like another comment after that. Another.
Okay. Do you want me to read that? I can.
Oh, if you have it, yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's just like right above. What's annoying about his page is he lets people, everybody can post, and like it flows in between everything. But anyway, I got it. Interesting that so many people jumped away my practical candle burning book. If they actually read it, they will see that it is not a witchcraft book. And I never claimed it to be such. It's a book of magic, of practice. God, I almost can't read with a straight face. It is a collection of candle spells from many different sources. In the introduction to the 3rd edition, this wasn't printed on the 1st or the 2nd, but on the 3rd, I say there should be a word of caution regarding the ethics of magic. In witchcraft, there is anyway, in witchcraft it is said, and in harm none, do what thou wilt. And in harm none, that includes, of course, yourself. This is not a book on witchcraft, it is a book on magic. And apparently I have to continue reading. Oh gosh, this goes on a long time.
Oh, well, that's fine. You don't have to.
Okay. Anyway, he says he goes to talk about the difference.
Well, that's fine to talk about the difference. But when you, to me, it's like if you're putting something out, especially when you're writing a book, that is a part of your beliefs, especially when before, I mean, I guess everyone changes. What you've expressed, it goes against what you express now. And it's interesting to me, and it's, I don't...
Not to mention he made money off of it and is still making money off of something he supposedly doesn't believe in.
Right, and I don't even know, I'm trying to compose something, and it's just like, I'm taken aback by his, and again, it's his perception, it's his words, the way he believes. I think it's funny, and I expressed this on, the Sacred Circle, their show, I expressed this to them. He's just trying to save face. He stated clearly, and this is something that I've had issue with. I understand the necessity of it, but when you try and make us out to be we're all love and light, and we're all, clean and nice and just, fucking pristine, fucking, Stepford wives, when you make us out to be safe, you do more harm. What you've done is more harm than good, in my opinion. Because when they find out the reality, and the reality is, witches curse. Not all witches do, but we know how to. We do it ever so often. We do it when it's necessary. But that's just a part of our history. We're not always nice. We are agents of balance. We do what is necessary, and that means at all costs. That means whatever we are capable of doing and whatever we are comfortable with doing. That does not mean that we are 100% positive. And who is to say that a fucking hex is negative? Who the fuck is to say that when you curse someone who fucking fucked and raped and just, took advantage of someone, when you curse someone like that, who says that that is negative? Who the fuck says that's negative? That is not okay. That is not negative. Who says that that is not a positive experience when, the reality, the mundane, the world around us can't fucking take care of someone and can't, they can't handle a situation and do it properly. People have to take it into their own. Witches have to take it into their own, and that's what we've always done. So who says that that is a negative thing? Because it's not. And that's what, obviously, that irritates me, because there is very beneficial. There's healing in malediction. There's release in malediction. There is positivity in malediction.
Well, and I totally agree with you, but I want to approach this in a whole other way. What irritates me the most, besides that does irritate me a lot, but what irritates me the most is he acts like, behind the safety of his computer in BFE, Ohio, that the world has accepted witches. I would love him to come down here and start blessing people in the South with some love and light. They'll have an exorcist performing an exorcism on him before he can get out in love and light, y'all. I'm telling you, they don't care if you are good, a good witch. When my daughter was in 2nd grade at her school, they told them they could not dress up at Halloween as a witch, regardless of if it was a good witch, a good witch attire, or werewolf or Dracula, no supernatural characters. And they said, oh, well, we don't want to scare the kids. What it really was is they didn't want anybody showing up in something like that because the Christian community had a problem with it. They also, pretty much quit trick-or-treating, and they have this whole everything's at church, parking lot.
No, stupid.
Trick or trunk or whatever. And so that's my issue.
Trunk or treat, yeah.
Trunk or treat, that's what it is. That is my issue. He acts like he came to the United States and totally changed it for all witches. And you know what? He did he did make Wicca mainstream. I will say that. He did make Wicca mainstream, and there are a certain percentage of people at that time who were slightly more open-minded than the rest and was like, oh, it's a nature religion, it's okay. But here in the South, they don't give a flying fuck if it's a nature religion. If you worship something other than what they worship, you are bad. You are Satan's whore. You are a deceiver. And I'm sorry that his statement acts like what those people did. Also put witches in a bad light where we never were. And I'm sorry, it might be that way where he is at. I would really love for him to come down here, and try that. To try his love and light crap and see if they don't run him out of town.
Fucking Harry Potter is still condemned.
Yes, Harry Potter, Wizard of Oz. They don't give a shit if you're Glinda, the good witch of the north, or the wicked witch of the west. They are both bad in the Christian community.
And I just in my response to this entire thing, I think it's funny that he considers himself so highly in the witch community. I really do. And this is what bugs the fuck out of me, is that Wiccans for years, and it is still happening, love to set themselves apart from witchcraft. They love it. They consider what they do witchcraft correct, but they will be the first to tell you that it is Wicca. They are Wiccans, and that is powerful in its own right. And meaning it, but it confuses people. Well, it is. I mean, do you disagree?
No. But I was gonna read the Leigh Loken was just like, wow, we still talking about Raymond Buckland. That what he said in an interview. I'm like, well, we just kind of got to it, but we were asked to talk about it. That's why we're talking about it. It is like, blah blah blah. Why give him? But if you have anything else to suggest to talk about, we'd entertain it. But what I was going to say was that it's not even, like, what he said is not even fair to the Wiccan community, because I know many, and I said this already, anyways, I know many traditional initiated Wiccans who, like, Gardnerians and Alexandrians and, people who were taught about hexing. They were taught, like, they people who were taught that of what to do, like how to take care of it. They won't talk on it, but it's like they know better. They know that, like, the Wiccan Read is bullshit. Like, and
well,
so
even Arian Virtue, who wrote it, has said it's not what people are making it out to be.
So it's unfair for him to speak for a majority of people, because he can't. Because it disrespects the core, like the core of Wicca. It disrespects that nature.
It doesn't just disrespect Wiccans. This is a witchcraft, and that's what I find offensive about it, is that he groups everybody as love and light Wiccans, and the fact of the matter is Wicca is not this love and light, like that. It's very potent, it's very powerful, and it's very respected, and as it should be. But it offends me that he would just group us all together and say that, you're not a real witch again. Because traditional folk magic goes a long ways back, whether you want to call it folk magic or you want to call it witchcraft, whatever. Several decades back, we have folk magic that is very well documented that are hexes. I mean, what really? And I mean,
right. And I think and as Logan just expressed, like, he said hexing and cursing is a last resort, and if needed, it is a quick and swift and over. And that's true. Like, and really, what we do, it's not like when we decide that we're gonna hex someone or curse someone. It's not like our first. There are other ways to handle things, and so when we decide, it's going to be thought through. It's going to be, even if it's in that moment, it's going to be, and again, every practitioner is going to be different. We all know ourselves, and we know the process that we go to. So even if it's our first instinct, we know that because that situation calls for it.
Right.
So everyone has their own interesting way of filtering and processing information. Sometimes it's my first instinct to do such a thing and to do malediction, but it's because I know myself so well, I know eventually I'm going to get there. So might as well just do it and not go down the line and process, because I know it well.
Well, what irritates me also is, as much as we've stated before in our videos, how, the whole community is not responsible for what one witch does and all that. The fact that he's an elder and a famous author, and that he said this, is, to me, worse and hurting the community way more than the group that hexed the Stanford Rapist. I mean, there's so many people now that are just up in arms and getting all retarded. Granted, that might have happened anyway. I'm sure it did. I know there was a lot of backlash about the hexing and the Stanford Rapist, but he just added, like, it was a fire, and it's like he just threw a whole can of diesel on it. And to me, to speak so carelessly after being quiet for so long is just infuriating. It's like he was and I swear to God, if he publishes a book in the next 6 months, I'm gonna be pissed. I can just see that being why, or reintroduces a book. I can see that being why he all of a sudden got back into the the Wiccan community, because he hasn't. I mean, he just did an interview in the Wild Hunt where he was talking about how he's focusing on his Victorian mysteries and comedy, whatever, and stand-up comedy and everything else. And to me, it's just like, wow, really? Now you're going to be a voice in the magical community when you've been quiet for so long?
Well, and again, we are all entitled to our opinion and saying what we want to say, and that's so true. But the thing I find more disturbing, I guess, is there have been many people who, again, this goes in with the whole topic of talking about the rapist and taking care of situations and stuff like that, and looking away and just like letting things happen. People are saying, well, he's old. He's an old motherfucker. So it was his time. He's responding from when he was a fucking like 2-year-old. So that's not okay, because that again is condoning a behavior and an experience that we should be discussing and figuring out how we stand on it, versus just saying that's okay because he's an old fart.
Well, I mean, if he was
Right.
if he wasn't such an influential old fart, maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. To be honest with you, I know tons of witches that believe exactly like he does, and I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. I think it set us back as a craft as a whole, because I mean, you think, when you think witches, I have spent the majority of my practice really annoyed because someone looks at me and they're like, "Oh, you mean Wicca?" And I'm like, no, thank you for at least knowing some part of our history, but no, it's not Wicca. I'm not Wiccan. I know a lot of Wiccans, love Wiccans, whatever, but I'm not. So as he spoke as witches, he did not say Wiccans are not Wiccans he said witches, and that his linguistics of the thing pissed me off, because it's just not all Wiccans, or I commend Wiccans who are very devoted to their craft and their religion. I think it's fantastic, but don't consider yourself so fucking highly.
Okay, so and Laylokin said, what exactly is so bad about what he said? I heard it and I realized what he meant and then moved on, and that's you can understand what he meant. Absolutely, you can take what he said and understand what he meant, but the words that he expressed and the words that came out and were written, and the way that people were perceiving it, that's kind of the thing that upsets me. Like, I do get what he meant. Like, I do get that. But it's also the words, like the way that he worded himself and the way that the majority of people perceived the way he expressed himself. That is what I have an issue with, because you have a majority of people who are thinking something exactly different. So.
Well, could you enlighten me on what he meant then? Like you say, you know how he was.
Yeah, because I'm a pretty firm believer that what he said was exactly what he meant. I don't think he was just talking to Wiccans. I think he was putting all witches into one class, because that is the way, just reading his books and the way he has, the way he expresses himself, that's what he thinks, as far as I can tell.
He expresses himself as if his word is law.
Right, and that's not okay.
And that's my issue with it. Like, if
exactly.
my issue is that it's not, his word is not law. There are a lot of other pioneers of the craft that came along fucking before him, and there are a lot that will come along after him. So I'm confused at why. I guess that's why I'm not offended necessarily about what he said. Whatever, your belief is your belief. I don't give a fuck. Like, I may not disagree with. I may not agree with you, and I may totally disagree with you, and I may argue my point. But fact of the matter is, don't group us together. Don't put us in that. Your belief is your belief. Don't put us all in that little pie.
Right, and that's the thing, is like he, just like I have many Wiccan friends, and not traditionals, but I do have some. But I understand when they speak, the way they come across is not the way they actually mean, and I understand that because they're my friend and understand how they communicate with me. So but I'm not, but there's a difference, because when you are a person of influence, you're a person of power, and when you utilize general terms that the majority of people still to this day, even practitioners do not comprehend, it's a challenge. And no, it's all good. And I do agree, because he expresses that we do need to educate others that today there are witches and Gardnerian witches, or Wiccans, and that's true. And even in the Wiccan community, they don't really comprehend that, because you don't have that distinct. You just don't have that distinct line, I guess you would say, because people don't get it. They think that all are the same. We're just not. We're just not. And it's not okay to speak for everyone, and the way you utilize your words to come across as you are.
Right. He just basically took a brush and painted us all with that same brush. And he's, in a way, I feel like he's doing that because he thinks he can, and because he's an elder. And so many people, like Michael said, has used that excuse. That's kind of like saying it's okay that my great uncle, Bill, calls, still uses racial slangs to talk, slang words to talk about, black people, because he's old and he doesn't know any better. That was the way he was raised. Bullshit. It's not okay. And if that, if that was my relative, even though he's my elder, I would let him know around me that is not okay. Just because they are older does not mean they are wiser.
And and I guess it's kind of funny for me to express it this way, but it would have totally been different had he expressed, let's say, as a another thing that I really don't get, I'm not going to get into it, but is he's gypsy, like he's Roma, like he has that line, and they're known for their generational curses, so the fuck. But what I don't comprehend, like, it would be different if he said, as a so-and-so witch, or as a so-and-so practitioner, this is what I believe. Because then you are making sure that you're coming across as a very specific line.
Exactly, and I think that he knew exactly what he was doing. I don't give him a handicap. I don't give anyone a handicap. Okay, period.
No, he doesn't get a pass go.
You don't get to collect $200. You don't just get to go because who you are. I don't get that luxury, so no one else should either. You don't get that luxury. I mean, none of us do.
I definitely don't get that luxury.
I mean, really? I mean,
well, and here's
controversial in and of itself. So, I mean, I've gotten tons of fucking backlash from people that I thought I was fucking best friends with because I was affiliated with Deviant Witchery at the beginning. So don't do not, don't cap us all that way. I think he knew exactly what he meant. I know for a fact that he knew it was going to be controversial. You don't say such finite words without thinking about them first, and I don't give a fuck if you're old. And honestly, I think he wanted the publicity. Maybe he was bored. That's the way I take it.
Yeah, I do. I think it was a lot of it had to do with publicity. And, it just is laughable that he said what he said and then ended with in love and light. Because I'm sorry, that shit did not come from a place of love or light.
No, there's not.
Well, that's the thing, the whole love and light thing. It's like the South being, it's like, she's ugly.
Bless your heart. Yeah. Exactly. The best curse of them all is saying bless your heart. I've seen that shit do some powerful stuff.
It's never good. Okay, and that's the same way. I mean, it doesn't matter what the fuck you say after it. It's still fucking shitty that you said it. So.
And so at the end of the day, really, we have to just make sure that we take responsibility for our own actions. And as witches, as people of power, people of influence, it's important for us to do what we can in our own circles, and it would be nice to expand on that, and to bring connection and to bring healing, bring understanding. And that's the thing, again, that's kind of my, that's going to be my theme for a while, is the lack of education and the lack of awareness. I mean, I guess we have awareness. We have a lack of action and a lack of education on what we are, who we are, and the different traditions, and the different beliefs. Like, yeah, and it's unfortunate that they all meld now. And so when you have that, you don't have the honor and you don't have the beauty of a distinct line that you can just, you can honor and appreciate, because everyone nowadays is just fucking creating like muddy water. And when you have that, you don't have the full understanding and the full education of a practice and of a faith and of a religion, of anything like that. And that's important now more than ever, because you have people who speak in very generalized terms, and they try to add everyone together. If most of us, like, if we had that understanding of the different experiences, if we were actually educated on it, we wouldn't have to keep addressing such things, because people are still questioning it. They wouldn't question it because they would know better. You know what I'm saying?
Lay Logan says, and I just wanted to address this real quick, says Raymond is a representative of Wicca. He knows this, and he comes from an era of extreme discrimination of witches. During his time, there was a woman who was identified by choice, I think that was supposed to be, on a radio program and lost her job. Well, that still happens today. That's my whole point. I live in a state where it's a right-to-work state. Right. Once I came out of the broom closet, so to speak, I was in a small town, and I was literally blackballed and could not find a job doing anything more than maybe working in a convenience store, because those people really don't give a shit who's behind the counter. So I get that, but it hasn't changed. I mean, we now have laws that are passed that if I go to a psychiatrist and they find out I am a witch in my state, they have the right to tell me they can't see me because my beliefs conflict with their religious beliefs. So it hasn't changed. I mean, maybe in some areas it has, but I'm telling you, here and where Hunter lives and in several other places, especially in any state that's a right-to-work state and has an extreme Christian population, it's the same. So, and I get that people, that he did come from a time where they really had to hide in the shadows, but there's still those of us who take a big risk coming out of the broom closet and saying, hey, I'm a witch. So, I mean, there really has not been that much progress made there, sorry.
I'm like I'm not trying, I guess I am being so very PC right now, but that's kind of what I feel is necessary. And he comes from a time when he really had to hide in the shadows. We might want to see the other side of this article, putting his perspective into account. I understand that, and that's fine, like understanding where someone comes from, but that was then. And if he says, like, what we've worked so hard for, you progress. Like, you live in a certain time, but you're also progressing and you're stepping into a different energy, you're stepping into a different time, and you have to go with it. You flow with it, and you understand that you're no longer at that point. So I do understand I do understand where he's coming from, but again, we are also, especially when we're in the position like he is, we have to take responsibility for our words, and it's very important for people who may not agree or who do agree to bring a discussion about it. And there have been many people who came to us and who wanted this discussed, because it was important to them, and they didn't know how to process it, or they weren't sure what to think. And so it's important to have conversations, even if they're boring, even if they keep going on and on and on, and it's tedious, and it really is, and I get that, but it's important to speak and discuss and understand and process together, because if we don't, we just keep staying in the same spot and we just keep saying where we are. I would hope that, you know, you're right. He doesn't, ultimately, he also doesn't speak for us, but he does, if you know what I mean. We'll speak for ourselves. Exactly. Exactly. That's kind of what that's exactly what, in a very long way, that's exactly what we're trying to say. And Lelokin just said, ultimately, he also doesn't speak for us, but he does, if you know what I mean. We all speak for ourselves, ultimately. And that's true. It's very true, because, and that's kind of the frustrating thing about it. I'm so talking with my hands right now, but that's the extreme frustrating thing about it, because he speaks for himself, we speak for ourselves, but at the same time, he has this covering, he has this position where he kind of does speak for us, but he doesn't, and that's why it's so frustrating. Right.
I mean, you know, and to me, it just shows that he doesn't really have an accurate outlook on what it's like to be a witch in this environment, what we're all going through. I mean, all you have to do is look at the headlines of all these states passing all these discriminatory laws, and it has zero to do with the fact that we're witches and everything to do with the fact that we're different. You know, they don't care if we hex. They don't care if we're loving life. They don't care if we fart rainbows and piss liquid gold. We're different. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you present yourself as. And, you know, that's the thing. That to me was the worst part of his message. He just has no idea how it is not near as different as he wants to think it is.
Right.
In the world right now.
And so, y'all, again, when this video is posted, I would love to hear your perceptions and everything you think in the comments. But also, I'd like to take time to kind of, like, you know, briefly go over, like, what we can do. Well, but I want to talk about what we can do now to protect ourselves and to raise energy and to be active in protection and you know, the stuff that we can do now to make sure that we are as equipped as we can be. But before we do that, I'm just going to fucking ramble. It is very important for any of you as witches to stand up and take your place when you feel that it is necessary. Mm-hmm. You know, when you see someone hurting, when you see something that is not right go on, it's not okay anymore for us to just turn our heads. Even if you don't actually get up and address the situation, we again have magic. So we have to follow through. We have to follow through with magic. We can. You don't have to, like, you know, go over and take action and say you're doing wrong if you don't feel called to. But when you see something happen, you have spirits, you have allies, you have power to do something. And that's kind of what we kind of have to keep doing, taking action in our own way that we feel most comfortable with. So we promote that energy into reality, and so that it takes root, because we keep holding ourselves back, we keep turning away, and we keep neglecting the shit that happens, and that sets a standard, and that's not a standard that we want.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you know, it does take a lot of courage to stand up for what you believe in, no matter what it deals with, whether in the mundane or in the magical sense, you know. But in order to affect change, you have to want to be the change. you know, as hippy dippy as that sounds, but it's true. You know.
You know.
But it's true, and you know, they brought up a point, a really good point, and the sacred circle, sacred circle, right? Not the secret circle, the sacred circle. That some people just aren't called to be activists, and that's true. Some people are, like on a large scale activism. Some people are not called to do that, but I think we all are kind of called to at least stick up for ourselves.
Right.
You know, so I mean, that's the very least, and hopefully, definitely something that you do is stick up for yourself. So, like Michael said, when something calls to you, when something speaks to you that you feel is an injustice, take a stand. Even if you can't physically say the words to, you know, your oppressor or whatever, you know, that's what magic is there for.
Right.
Take a stand that way, in the privacy of your own home. But you still, you know, you don't have to let the whole world know. You know you took a stand.
Right.
That's all that
exactly.
matters.
And exactly, and I was taught in psychic training that if you're going through something, you ground yourself. And then once you ground yourself, and this is very simple and basic, y'all, once you ground yourself, if you see a situation that's really going through a challenge and that's not having a very good time, you can ground them as well. And when you ground that situation, when you ground that person, it helps. So that's a very small thing that you can do to create change. Or to have a temporary fix on something. When someone is very distraught, ground yourself and then ground them, and have their energy like just be grounded and rooted and let it process. And it helps them, because not everyone is taught that. Not everyone knows how to ground. And so when we can do it for other people, and it's a simple thing, it's not a violation really. And if it was, it's you're grounded on whatever. Yeah, what are let's just briefly talk about a few things we can do for extra protection. Yeah, so protection. Again, I would say always have, and this is something that doesn't require any tools, but you need to have like a very good relationship with spirit and spirit allies. Find, if you have a patron deity that you work with them, but create a protection, like a hand gesture with a chant, and have that be very strong, okay, and do it daily. And so as you do it, you build that energy, and you're going to do it daily to feed it. So it's there. And so in any moment where you feel like you need that extra protection, all you have to do is that hand gesture, and it automatically brings that trigger, that brings that power to you. It brings that energy to you because you keep doing it. And then you say the chant, and you bring that force there. You know, this is what we can do on a witchy standpoint. You know, you can have like mace, you can have a, you know, gun if that's what you choose. You know, if that's your choice, that's your choice. There are many things physically you can do. We are talking spiritually. So that simple technique, you know, is important, but you have to make sure that you have a strong connection with the forces that you're working with.
Right. Hey, and enchanting pepper spray is a lot of fun. I do that regularly with my pepper spray, and my daughter has pepper spray as well. So it's something that you can do that's very simple but very effective, especially since that is something you are literally defending yourself with. And any kind of smooth, like worry stone, that is a really great thing to enchant that can get, you know, just boost your confidence if you're really stressed about something. If you know you're going into a situation where there's going to be conflict or an uncomfortable situation, if you something like that you can keep in your pocket, and every time you grab it, you feel better, you feel protected, you feel stable, and you tend to take things a lot more smoothly. Things go smoothly. You're not as stressed.
Well, another thing you can do is bewitch your keys, because like if anything else, at the end of the day, like if someone's there and if you don't have anything, you will most likely have your keys on you. You can grab your keys and have it on you, and you can, they can act as a weapon. So, and keys are great at unlocking and locking things. So you can bewitch them that they add that extra protection where they're going to lock a force out. And they're going to open the door for protection. They're going to open the door for help to be there. At the same time, they are going to make sure that the energy is locked out, the individual, the physical force is locked out as best as possible. Then you can use that to your advantage. And yeah.
Yes, I like that. And there's a lot of ways you can protect yourself. My mom has a baseball bat that she keeps in her car and by her bed. That makes her feel protected. My dad's gone a lot for different meetings and things like that. And so that's her thing, it makes her feel better. And I'm always, blessing it and infusing it with certain things. So she feel, it's there to protect her, and it actually will protect her. So, right. I mean, it could be anything that makes you feel safe.
Yeah, exactly. And another fun thing you can do, as I'm responding to a comment, which is very rude, on my phone, program your cell phone. Program your cell phone to act as a protective force, because let's just face it, we always got this shit on us. We always have this somewhere. So if you can utilize it on some way, because cell phones project and they receive. So if you can utilize your cell phone as a way of creating a barrier, or, even creating like a barrier of sharp energy where it's going to poke and it's going to hurt, do it. Utilize your cell phone, because that's a connection. That's something that we use every day. That's something we're very connected to. That's something that's very powerful and it has an influence on us. And so it'd be easy for us to connect with this and to utilize it as a power source, and to utilize it as a protection, or a very aggressive nature as well. So definitely use that. Use that, because we always have it on us.
Definitely.
Is there anything that y'all would like to say before? Because we got to close up. But is there anything that you want to say? Is there anything that you'd like us to address? Because we would be happy to. If not, we're gonna go. But we definitely appreciate you, and we definitely we love the discussion. Even if we don't agree with you, even if we take some time to come to terms and come to a common place, it's still fun to share opinions, share perception, and discuss. And I think that as adults and as witches, we should be able to do that. And we learn a lot more when we're able to do that. It's a great experience, and we encourage it. So, again, I'm going to give it a little bit, because I know that it takes a while for it to transfer over the questions and shit. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, we are going to go.
Thank you to my Logan for commenting, keeping the discussion going. We appreciate it greatly.
We do, absolutely. And for sure, y'all, you have to check out his. I'll put the comment in. It's funny. It made me laugh. I laugh now. But you have to check out one of his recent public service announcement, how to be Wicca compliant. I about died. It's good. You just have to check it out. It cracks me up. But definitely check that out, and we'll link everything that we discussed. And And again, at the end of the day, realize that we all have voices, and our voices are strong, and our voices should be heard. If you have an opinion, if you believe a certain way, if you don't feel right about something, even if it's something we say, voice yourself, express yourself. Let's discuss, let's share, and let's grow. That's kind of the point of everything is growth and experience.
Yeah.
Look at me all grown up and shit. But yeah, it's been fun, y'all. We appreciate you. Definitely check out the group. We have a lot more in store, so peace. Peace be with you.